Welcome back to another episode of the Statues Podcast. I'm your host, Danang.
And I'm your co-host, Crystal.
For today's episode, we have a clip, so let's get into it.
A good woman is an investment. An immature one is a bill. Recognize the difference between the two. A good woman can build you, can grow you, can nurture you, can care for you, can give you a family, can give you so much peace in your life. An immature woman will seek pleasure and will not be loyal to you, will not respect you, will drain you, will focus on herself in selfish ways and not the partnership as a whole. It's a parasitic relationship. So understand, a good woman is an investment, an immature one is a bill.
That's the clip for today's episode. With that clip, I just want to preface by saying this doesn't go for just women. This goes for both men and women in relationships.
Mm-hmm. It's just he was a man who
talking
was
to another man.
Yeah, about his own personal opinions.
Yeah. What he said is actually very viable. I think it's a perfect way to talk about this kind of a topic.
Yeah.
I don't know for you, but for me, I think that's what you have to figure out in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people, you're in the puppy phase, your puppy love phase.
Like the honeymoon phase.
Yeah.
They always say it's, and we talked about this too at the beginning of the relationship, like the first 2 years. The 3-year mark was when the honeymoon phases end, and it's like the 3-year curse or something. Yeah. I think that's what we called it, because after 3 years, the reality starts to, kick in.
Yeah. And for us, our situation was different because your dad passed away in the second year of us being together.
Yeah.
But the third year was very difficult. And I think this goes into play with that, right? For myself, I knew for myself at the beginning of our relationship, yes, I can honestly say I was not in the headspace of
long term, where am I going to see with this person?
Yeah, it was more so in the moment, okay, let's just see where this goes. And I think when you're in that kind of a mindset, it doesn't really build a relationship. Mm-hmm. I think the relationship is at a standstill, and you're just riding along that honeymoon phase. That this is still fresh, this is still new, that there's still everything about this person is the most beautiful thing in the world, and nothing can go wrong.
Wow. Okay. I was just going to say, for me personally, because I was just dating you and you kind of had yourself more together, everything, you kind of knew what you wanted to do. You kind of knew the direction you wanted. So for me, I didn't feel like you were like a bill or anything, just because you were much older, not much older, but in comparison, you were much older than I was.
Yeah.
So, I didn't see it that way. But for me personally, to you, I felt like when I heard the clip, I was laughing to myself a little bit, because what he said was so true, because I saw myself almost as a hassle and a bill to you, because we weren't really progressive in our relationship, and I was kind of at a standstill in deciding what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go, and our relationship in general. It wasn't just my life, it was everything around me. I felt like I was still stuck in the same space. So for me, I felt like I was the bill to you.
I think now, being at an age where I can look at certain things differently, I think if we were to look back at the beginning of our relationship, if you were to say you were the bill, I think honestly, we were both bills in the relationship. You were a bill, you think you're a bill to me, but I also think I'm a bill to myself. And what I mean by that is you are driven by your partner. So because I was a little older, yes, there were certain aspects of my life that were together, but there were also certain aspects of my life that weren't together. And because you were a little younger, it was almost like playing off on being that young kid again, without those responsibilities, without the care of my responsibilities at that time.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, yes, in that aspect, I was a bill to myself.
We talked about it a few times already on the podcast, where I heard it a lot from your parents too, where because you were the eldest in, you know, your immediate family, that I had to almost take on that age and be responsible too. But I was barely getting my life together. So how would I know what responsibility is? Like at that time, you know, like with like that mindset. So I felt like so much pressure. That's why I saw myself as a bill, because what am I going to do? Like I'm going to constantly say that. Like what am I going to do? Because I didn't know what to do.
Because you were able to see that when I couldn't see that. Yes, I understood that I was the eldest. I was the eldest son to my dad, right? I understood that I had familial responsibilities, but also at that time, you're at a phase where you don't really give a shit.
Yeah.
You're reckless. You're stupid. You're doing dumb shit. And I was at that age where I was doing dumb shit. I didn't really care.
But
It
your
was
age
only
affected me like
exactly, but my age affected you, which affected me. And what I mean by that is you learned maturity very early into our relationship, right? The first year of our relationship was the honeymoon phase where it was as easy as it comes. You just, you know,
yeah.
you nothing can go wrong. But it was during the second year of that relationship when your dad passed away that things started to get harder now. And the reality of our relationship was now on the table. Now there was responsibility. And these responsibilities were now pushed onto the both of us. What are we going to do? Not what you are going to do, not what I'm going to do. Now it was a group effort. What are we going to do?
Yeah, like what are we going to do with well, for me it was more like what am I going to do with this relationship and what am I going to do with my life? Because like you said, we had familial responsibilities that, you know, because I'm Vietnamese, for me, like I had to take care of my family, but for you, you know, like you had to take care of your family, and if I wanted to be with you, I also had to take into consideration your family. So it was like back and forth, and that's why I said like I felt like I was the bill, because I just I was trying to catch up to you. It's like a race. You're ahead of me. I have to try and catch up to you, but while I'm trying to like catch up, my life is just going by like so fast, and it just
And I think that's something that was very different about our relationship, right? When they say, in this term, a relationship is an investment or it's a bill.
yes.
100%. A relationship can be a bill. And I'm talking about you can skyrocket that bill, go into debt, go into this ridiculous shit in a relationship. Okay? But there's a turning point in that relationship where all that shit now becomes real.
Yeah.
And now you have to understand, okay, now what part of this do we invest? What part of this relationship now do we invest? And I think for the both of us, I think that was the blessing in disguise for us. Not saying that things needed to happen, but what I'm saying is that because of your dad's passing, responsibility hit us like a damn freight train. And because it hit us, we had to think about certain things that we weren't really thinking about. Not that we didn't, you know, like at the beginning of the relationship, yes, there's some good there are some good things in that. But look at it as a whole picture, and it is a bill. The first part of our relationship was a bill. We didn't know what a relationship was. We didn't know truly how each other operated. It was when we started to invest in each other's lives. And I'm not talking about I'm investing in you and you're investing in me. What I'm talking about was we had decided to invest in each other's and everything around each other.
Yeah, it's like
So that was
investing
our
in each other's lives.
Yeah, so that was I invested in your family, you invested in mine. And through our families was where we found that familial responsibility. It was
tough.
never through each other. And that's what I think was special about our relationship was that our relationship, the reason why it was as strong as it was never because it was just us. If it was for the sole purpose of just you and me, I don't think it would have lasted this long. I don't think we would have
No.
gotten married. But because this relationship was an investment of years. We had invested years, sacrificed years
Many, many,
into
many
each other's
years.
families. That now it became this investment that bloomed.
Yeah. You know, we always talk about it, but I feel like I wasn't. It's not that I didn't care for your family. I care and I love them. I just felt like you put in so much more effort into my family than I did into yours. You know, that's why I always felt this like you always say like I'm just being silly and I'm just adding unnecessary pressure, but I felt like, like I was lacking in so much because you had put so much effort into getting to know my family and getting to be there with them, through all those times. It's not that, I wasn't coming down to, family parties, events,
Yeah, yeah.
birthdays. I was there. I just didn't feel like I had invested enough of my own time.
But I think that's where the understanding that I had early on in a relationship came from. I don't remember who told me, but I think it might have been one of one of my mentors. But one of my mentors told me a relationship is never going to be fair. If you seek for fairness, you will only get a battle. And so I think my understanding that a relationship is never going to be fair. That if if I'm putting out 50%, it's to expect someone else to also put out 50% was unreasonable. I think and there was something about my mentor saying that kind of like hit me where they said you have to put out 100 because when you put out 100 they'll also figure out where that line is and they can start drawing that line for themselves. They can start saying, oh, well, if that's that, then I need to match that. So you're not putting out 50-50. You're putting out 100 and your partner will eventually meet you at the 100 point. And I think that's what happened where throughout our relationship, I put out, and I didn't expect anything.
Yeah.
I don't expect anything because I'm doing this out of pure love for you and pure love for your family. So I'm enjoying it as well. I'm enjoying the reason why I'm doing certain things. But then, when things got hard and now, I fell into my depression, you put out and you put out the whole 100%. Now you were my backbone. Now you became my support system. But that's the thing is now you understood what that line was where, oh, well, he's not capable right now. He's broken right now. I need to put out. I need to be his backbone. And because he was my backbone and he did this and this and this for me, I need to do that for him. And I think that's what most relationships are missing. Right? Like I hate this thing that women say. I expect a man to do this and this and this. But see, this is where I want to say to all these women, if you expect a man to do something for you, then you better give him as much.
Honestly, the only thing I ever expect you to do is just to make sure that you clean up after yourself and you just know how to cook. That's it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is expectations lead to failure.
Yeah.
Never expect something to be done.
Well, maybe
I
not
think-
expect, but you just happen to know how to do whatever I wanted you to do. That's it.
But I think that's the thing, right? Is I was never your ideal type and you were never my ideal
No.
type. That's what I mean is when you expect certain things, you get disappointment. If you just go along for the ride and you enjoy that ride, certain things that come in throughout that ride become enjoyable. You
Yeah.
might not know it in the moment, you might not understand it in the moment, but at the end of it, here we are enjoying every moment of what we have done up to this point.
That's true. I guess a lot of people that I personally know, they all expect something. They're always looking to find their perfect half. I'm not saying that, it's wrong to have standards. You do, but you should just, you know,
Like,
it shouldn't just be based off personality or looks, because sometimes, because like I said, you were completely not my type.
yeah.
And it just so happened that my husband ended up being the first person that I dated whom I did not like.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't hate you, but you,
I
like,
just wasn't your type.
yeah, you just weren't my type. Like, there were a lot of things about you that I just didn't understand, and I really hated, like, how you're just so, like, to me, I found it rude and upfront how you were just so honest about everything, because my mom always said, if there wasn't anything nice to say, just don't say it at all. But you're like, I don't give a fuck about how you feel. Like, if I'm with you, or like if we're close, just expect me to be honest with you, because, you know,
That's just how I am.
exactly. So it was small things like that I just didn't like at first, but, like, funny thing now, I quite appreciate that.
But I think that's the thing, right? Is people have unrealistic expectations. Okay, it's great to have expectation. It's great to know what you want.
Yes.
It's great to understand certain qualities that you want in a person. For me, you have all of the qualities that I want, but up to the standards that I want it, never.
No.
You are never going to be my ideal type. But that's the thing is, the person is not supposed to be.
Yeah.
You grow in a relationship. You grew into my ideal type. You became my new ideal type because you grew these qualities that I needed in my life. Throughout the 8.5 years that we've been together, you don't just become the person that I need. You become and shape yourself to everything that is around me and everything for me and everything around you and everything for you.
Yeah.
So our ideals and our way of thinking becomes almost like one, where, well, maybe your standard of family is at this point. And then you see another person's family and you see them at this point.
Yeah.
Well, now you're going to bring certain qualities from this point and bring it down to you, bring it down to your point and push it up.
Yeah.
And that's what a relationship is
It's
about.
not about changing who you are. Like, I don't want people to,
Yeah.
misunderstand that, like, like, I changed myself to fit him. Far from it. We both changed each other for the better. Everybody should look at it as, you meet somebody that you really love and you want to spend the rest of your life with. You want to better yourself. A relationship should be about you bettering yourself, like, and just growing as an individual and as a couple. And that's what we both did.
Be secure with your relationship. Be secure with the fact that your partner is the way they are.
Yes.
Like for you and I, it's like I always said to you, look, we are human beings. I am with you for a very specific reason.
Well,
And if you cannot trust that specific reason, then it's not going to go far.
yeah. Well, like I said, it wasn't much so, about you. It was more so my lack of self-confidence as to why you chose me, because I was the exact opposite of what you wanted, and it took me a long time to get to here, to just feel like, like maybe he's with me for a reason, because sometimes I still question, like, I'm a little bit on the weird side. There are things about me I know that peeves you a little bit, but like,
But I think those are the qualities that make you the person that I fell in love with. And that's what people don't need to, like, this is what people need to understand, right? Is that there are people that are lucky and they find every quality that they are looking for in the partner that they have. Just because maybe you might not look the way I have always, like the way my ideal types are, doesn't mean that you are not my ideal type. It doesn't mean. What it means is that you're my wife. There's a reason why I love you, why I picked you, why I have suffered as much as I have with you.
yeah.
Okay? Just because, like, and that's the thing, is your personality fit what I wanted in a person.
Okay,
Your personality of you being very free, very funny, very, like, outgoing when you want to, but introverted like me when we are just relaxed.
yeah.
This is what I want.
I know that there are some things that you probably would change because I know that you enjoy going on. Like I'm much so a homebody. Like there are things, but I feel like over time that will change, just like how I've changed from when you first met me to now. Like I feel like I've changed a little bit, and over time that will keep going. But I don't know. I guess like when I hear you say that, it sounds weird because I'm like, I don't know. I don't see it.
But that's the thing is, how are you going to see what I see?
Yeah.
I see what I see because I have gone through what I have gone through. You're not me. You haven't gone through what I've gone through.
Of course.
My ideal types are very and completely different from how and who I've fallen in love with. Who, it's like they say, like for me, I have 3 loves in my life, and I've always said that.
Yep.
The first love was the exact person that I've wanted.
She's beautiful.
Yeah. The second one was the one that put me into my place, that taught me what I wanted in my life. And the third one, you, was the one that I wanted to have a life with. These are things that you grow into. For you, it just so happened that I became all 3, where,
Yeah.
I might not be the idealistic person, but my qualities became something that you adored. My personality was something that you may not have liked, but you grew into.
Yeah.
And
I appreciate it
eventually-
now, honestly.
Yeah, there are certain things that we might not have appreciated when we first started dating.
Yeah.
But, when you first start dating, are you really going to tell the person, I hate this part about you?
I mean, you did tell me.
Well, yeah, I'm different, though. I've always been different. I've
Like-
always been the one that, like, if I don't like certain things, hey, I'm going to just tell you just so that you understand. I'm not asking you to change. I'm just telling you. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah. Like, I remember, like, when we first started dating, I was very vocal about certain things, or, like, I was just like, you know, you know exactly what I'm talking about, too. And, you were like, why? Like, just shut up. Like there's no need for you to, say certain things. But now I feel like you appreciate it more, like, for, like, if you always say it, like, if I do something wrong, you better tell me. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking tell you.
Yeah.
Like before, probably because you've never met. I mean, you did. There were many people who were vocal about it, but not in a way where I was, because they were more subtle about it, or the way they said it was more
But yours was
elegant.
like, because you were still young.
I was
yours
obnoxious.
Yours is obnoxious. And for someone like me, where at the age that you did meet me,
I was
obnoxious things were annoying to me.
Yeah, I was still in high school. So, maybe it's because that, perception where, like, high schoolers are fucking stupid. Like, high schoolers are dumb as shit. And I say that because now when I look back as an adult, I'm like, fuck, I'm fucking annoying.
Yeah.
Like, there are times where I look back at, like, even, like, this way back, like, in elementary school, I'm like, dang, no wonder people didn't like me so much, So, I get it, but it was things like that where, you definitely didn't like certain things, but
Because for me, I think because there was an understanding for me that, like, subtly there was an understanding for me that I was a little older.
yeah.
And because I was a little older, your parents are going to look at me differently.
Oh, they did. They
Exactly.
completely did. I remember.
And so I needed to, not only did I need to match your standards, but I needed to match the standards of your parents. And because I had to do that, there were certain things that I needed to kind of work around.
Yeah.
So I stopped going out. I stopped dyeing my hair. I stopped doing this. I stopped doing that. And to those that are listening, yes, certain qualities of these sound negative. But what you also need to understand was, you do things for people that you love, even at the beginning of it, even when it sounds stupid as fuck.
The only thing I hated was that stupid blonde hair. That blonde hair. I liked it at first, okay, when I met you. But then now that, like, I remember it was like 3 years ago, I just straight up told you, I was like, oh man, that blonde hair was like the worst ever. I hated it so much. But I think
because that time I was working in media. I was working like on stage with artists. I was doing
Yeah.
shit. I was at events all the time.
no, I get it. Like,
But these are the things that I needed to learn how to work around.
yeah.
I didn't want your mom and your dad to perceive me a certain way. So I started I started working around it, and I was able to. And yeah, at the beginning of a relationship, you know, this stupid puppy love, this stupid honeymoon
Ugh,
phase,
yeah.
there are certain things that you do for a woman. There are certain things that you do for a man. And we go through it all, you know. But eventually it gets to the point where it becomes very real. The relationship becomes very real. And it's no longer about, you don't want this bill in your life forever. You want this bill to become an investment. How are you going to do it? And I think for the both of us, we got to that point where we didn't want the same thing in the relationship anymore. And what I mean by the same thing was like we didn't want the honeymoon stage anymore.
Yeah. I was just lucky that although I was shallow as fuck, okay? Like and my idealistic type was definitely not you. But there were certain qualities even still at the beginning that I knew was there, but like understand like being in your business, you kind of have to like look after yourself or else you're going to get, screwed over. So, but there were times where I saw that side of you that was like, like this guy might not look the best like at that time, because I think you're fucking handsome now, like God bless. But at that time I was like, this guy might not be handsome to my type, but his heart is in the right place. Like he's a really caring and giving guy. Maybe to a fault, But oh man, like I got like really, really lucky. I really did.
But I think that's the thing, right? Is if you're willing to, and this is, there's something that someone used to say to me, I'm waiting for the right person. And what I believe, okay, and this might not go for everyone, but what I believe is there isn't a right person. What I believe is if they're the right person, they will make it work with you to make it the right situation.
Yeah.
Okay, like, look, you come and go in relationships and you learn from each relationship, whether it be a good or a bad.
Yep.
And you learn from these. If you're not willing to learn, you'll fuck it up again and you'll fuck it up again and you'll do it all over again.
Yep.
And this is where bad relationships come, where you don't want to learn. You don't want to look at the past relationships and say, this happened in that relationship. I should do something else. In our relationship, there has always been some kind of mutual understanding.
There has to be.
And for us, when we moved here and you were deciding if you were going to go to school or not, I was that person by your side that was constantly pushing you to go back to school.
Yeah.
Saying to you, no matter what, go back. Finish it.
I wasn't going to, though.
Finish it for
straight
you.
up.
Not finish it for someone else, but finish it for you. I don't care. But one day you will care. And, for me, you've always been that person that whenever I say, hey, I want to do something, and it sounds far-fetched, you've still always been that person that's like, go and do it. And, a good example of that was like, randomly, I was like, I'm going to make a concert. And you were like, go and do it.
Or your book. I remember the book was totally out of nowhere. I'm like, okay, well, how are you going to do it? Because I know you always have a plan, but I will always be that voice of reason for you. Like, it could be spontaneous, but I'm like, okay, now how are you going to do it? Talk to me. That's it. Just simple. Talk to me. And, if I start posing questions, it's not because I doubt it, but I just want to make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into. I'll always be by your side. I'll always be with you every single step of the way. That's what I committed myself to, just like you do for me. You just need to make sure that you know where you're going because you're leading with this.
Yep. And I think that's what this relationship is built up to, right? This relationship wasn't like that. This relationship was nothing like this. When a lot of people say, "Wow, you're so different." We're different now because the relationship has also grown in a way where it's allowed for the both of us to personally grow as much as we are growing together. If you do not personally grow, then together you will not grow. Someone is dragging the other person. That's what the relationship is going to be. And I'm not saying this as a relationship expert. I'm not saying this as a love expert. I'm not saying this as anyone like that. I'm saying this as someone, like I'm saying this as a husband, and I'm saying this as someone who has fucked around in my earlier years. And I'm not saying like I fucked around doing dumb shit. I'm saying I fell in love honestly, and I was rejected over and over and over nicely.
Yeah.
And these things taught me qualities that I wanted in a woman.
Yeah, I don't think like I know I will never be able to understand that part of like falling in love and a relationship because I it's not that I didn't like anybody. I liked, a few people. I just wasn't ballsy enough to, go tell them. Like for me it was like if I like them, I'm just gonna keep it to myself, and I'm just gonna go about my business. I'm just gonna still do what I need to do. But I like this person. I don't think we could talk about it, like, and for me, it's always, no matter how many times we talk about it, it's people are gonna find it weird, but I always find it interesting to hear what it was like for you to fall in love with different people because they taught you different things. I won't ever know what that feels like only because I met you
Yeah.
and I ended up falling in love and you just were my first and my last. The
But I think that's the thing, right? Is if people think it's weird, then you're at a point in your life or you're at a point in your relationship where you're not comfortable with certain things. To be comfortable with knowing stories, knowing things about why a man likes this person or why you fell in love with that person. You have to understand, love is not as narrow as everyone thinks it is. Love is not, I love you, I want to be with you. No, love is, damn, that person did something for me. And it changed my life. And that will always be a part of my life. And look, the girls that I have fallen in love with and have changed my life are still my best of friends to this very day. And that's the difference between other people.
yeah.
I was rejected nicely. I was told off nicely. I was given a reason why, and I was given the opening and the closure of that.
People, if I feel like, I'm not going to say, but if it was somebody else, they probably would find it very uncomfortable. Not that I found it uncomfortable, I just thought it was weird because, like, I guess I was so used to people around me where if they tell them they like them, they just, like, there's this like tension of, the other person likes you. So you just don't talk to them as much. So I think that was where I was coming from. But definitely, if they weren't, I gotta say that I'm quite as understand. It took me a long time to be understanding, but if it was anybody else, I feel like they might be uncomfortable with this whole situation of you being friends with the people that you used to like.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference, right? Is when you invest in a relationship, it allows for a lot of things to open.
Yes, sir.
And one of those things that open is also your heart, being honest and true about your heart, being honest and true about certain things that have led up to this point. Right? Anytime I talk about you, well, I can't talk about you without talking about the other ones, because these ones are the ones that taught me what it was like, what I wanted in a woman.
No, but that's why, like, I'm grateful for them. Although, like I said, like before it was uncomfortable in that state of mind. Now I'm so thankful because they also taught you a different side of you, because when you fell in love with them, it was different phases of your life and you learned so much about yourself too. So I gotta say, like, I'm just so thankful. I really, really am.
Yeah. And this is what I mean, right? Is there's an investment in the relationship, but there's also an investment in like each other and yourself. And going through a relationship and wanting to invest in a relationship already is an investment. Now, investing yourself into her or his life is also a huge investment.
Yep.
You invest in her family or you invest in his family and you learn more about yourself. If I hadn't invested in your family, I wouldn't have known that I was this kind of a person. I wouldn't have known how much I could love other people. Okay, and it sounds funny, but I already know how much I love myself. That's why I've pushed myself to this very point in my relationship with myself and what I do in my life.
It's not weird though, like, because it's it's weird when I say this, but you have to love yourself first before you go and love other people, because if you love yourself, you know how to cherish yourself. Then you can find a partner who can love you just as much, you know. And I'm not saying that to be like all like confident or cocky and stuff like that, but if you can find someone who can love you as much as you love yourself, you're solid,
Yeah.
because they'll always have your back 1000.
And I think allowing yourself to invest in a relationship allows for your partner to see how much investment is there. And what I mean by that is, like, for example, when your baby sister came into the picture, it opened up a lot of those doors that you hadn't seen. And because you saw it, well, it opened up a lot of those other feelings that you didn't know you had. It made the bond between you and I a lot stronger. It showed you, wow, this guy is very committed. There's this side of him that I didn't know existed. But there's this thing is, you wouldn't have known if I didn't make that investment,
Yeah.
right? There's a fine line between investment and being a bill. And you got to know when those lines, reach that certain point. In a relationship, I see many relationships become a bill because, number one, they get too comfortable. They're too comfortable with how their partner is, or they're too comfortable with themselves that they don't want growth.
That's true.
For me, even with our age gap, I never wanted it to be comfortable. I knew that, well, by the time I was going to be in my late 20s, you'd be in your early 20s. So maybe I'd have my life ready and you wouldn't. Well, for that reason, why don't I just push a little bit more in my career? How far could I go? I still have that much time. I still have this to do. I still have that I could do. There are always these things that, like, I think about all the time.
It's about compromising, because I remember when we were maybe okay, this was when I entered college, okay? And then we started talking about getting married and all that. And then you told me you wanted kids before you turned 30.
Yeah.
I'm like 18, 19, okay? Like, so I started college when I was 18, cuz early birthday. But then you told me stuff like that as we're talking about, like our life together. And it's like, "Oh shit. I'm like barely, like, if it happens, if it had happened, I would have been like 19, maybe like 20, So it's like that is like a fear of like, oh, but I still didn't live my life yet.
Just because I wanted certain things in my life, I started to see how your life was becoming, where you weren't happy in your life. So okay,
Dysfunctional.
for that reason, it was an investment for me to pull back my plans
Yeah, no.
and let you live your life, let you experience that life a little bit, while I go and figure out what I want to do.
And
And
that's why I'm like grateful for that, because and I will never, it's not a debt, but it's a sense of, I don't think I'll ever be able to do enough for you to repay that, for you putting your life on hold for me, because you had your life all planned out, but the 6 year age difference was such a huge, it doesn't seem like it, okay? 6 years is small because there are people that have bigger age gaps, but it's such a huge age gap when I'm still in high school and I'm like, graduating, going to college, and then you have finished all that and now you're thinking, you've did what you wanted to do, started your career, now you're thinking about a family. I'm still not thinking about a family, but you are.
yeah,
So I
but
don't
see,
think
that
there's
was the
ever
thing,
going to
right?
be, enough
Yeah,
of, me, how do I say this? Being here for you, being your wife. I don't think there will ever, this lifetime is not enough to repay back for you, putting life on hold for me.
but I think that's the thing, right? Is when we talk about putting life on hold, I wasn't putting life on hold. As an individual, yeah, I was putting life on hold. Selfishly, that's what I wanted for my life. Since I was a kid, I had always wanted that. Since I was 16, I looked at my parents and was like, they're young, and yet they're able to live life with me every single day. And they're gonna grow up and see their grandkids and play with their grandkids for years to come.
Your
And
parents are
that's what I
young.
wanted.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted for my parents to be there for 30, 40 more years when I had kids and be there, and my kids would know what that kind of love was, because I didn't get that love from my grandparents, because they all passed so young in my life.
Yep.
But when you get into a relationship and that relationship becomes something that you invest in, well, now it's no longer a question of what do I want. It's what do we want and what's better for us. And yeah, what do I want? At 16, I wanted to get married and have kids by the time I was like 25. But
Yeah.
for us, I think it got easier because the situation wasn't right for us yet. And that's why I've waited. And that's why I'm willing to wait until after you finish school, after you get your career going, after you lived a little. That okay, if you want kids, then great, let's have kids. If kids happen from this point until whenever, then great, we're ready for it too.
Yeah.
At this point, we are ready for it either way.
Yeah. I feel like if I had had kids with you earlier, I wouldn't have turned out this way. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't get my ass into shape, but it's more so I don't know if the way I am now would be the same had I had kids. Like I probably would have, been so like upset or like resented you or, just so much negative feeling because I was not forced, but it was more so you wanted kids. So then, okay, I love you. I'll do it.
Yeah.
And then kids come and I'm like, oh,
Okay, I will say this. In this relationship, I had to grow a lot fast first,
yeah,
because there was a lot of things that I needed to be able to gauge for myself.
yeah.
Because I knew that you weren't at an age where you could gauge this properly.
Oh, yeah, no.
So when I started looking at your family situation, well, okay, because of this, let's push things back. And then I started looking at your situation. Okay, let's push it back a little bit more. And then certain things happened. Okay, well, now we got to push it really far back. And then it just got to a point where it was like, okay, now I need to take control and do certain things the way I would, but still leave it open so that if anything were to happen, it can happen. And because it did that, now we're in a better place. Now I haven't seen you, like, okay, I'll say this is, I haven't seen you go to school as happy as this in a long time. Like you said before, you've gone to school 3 to 4 times now.
Oh my God, it was such a pain. It was just a cycle of just waking up, getting ready to go to school, attend class, and then come back home and just do the bare minimum. Just the bare minimum to pass. But it's like,
But I think this is what investing in a relationship is. Investing in each other's lives and everything in it. And that means, hey, if you got to think for her for a little bit, just push her or push him. Be the voice of reason and go and try. And that's what I had to do. Well, because you didn't want to, because you were scared of debt, you were scared of this, and you were scared of that. Well, I wasn't going to let that stop you. I knew that, well, okay, if you're scared of that, then let me go and make up for it. Let me just work a little harder. Let me make up for that chunk of change that you're worried about.
yeah, I think that's what like almost not made me go to school, only because you were helping me pay off my school debt the first year. And I was so stressed out about like how are we gonna, pay back this money. And at that time you told me not to work, because you just wanted me. It was the first time in a very long time that I could breathe and decide what I wanted to do. So you told me, just take it easy, just relax. You don't need to work. I will do it. Well, it was a constant worry of, okay, well, I need to do something. And I think I told this to you, but I told this to my friends for sure, was I had no plans to go back to school after we had moved out here. I had no plans at all. I was going to wait for a full year, like an actual full year. But then I sat there and I'm like, fuck that. Like, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to go back. Because there are some people, and I'm not, hey, you do what you want to do, whatever makes you comfortable. But there are some people that, that take the year off, the gap year, and they get too comfortable and they just don't go back. I didn't want that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, it's now or never, while my head is still here, I'm gonna go and I'm going to, find something. I'm gonna, just pick something, after doing research, blah blah blah, and then talking to you. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do this. I don't know what's in store for me. I don't know what's gonna happen. I have no expectations. I'm just gonna go into it. And I love it.
But that's the thing, right? Is sometimes the other person might not know what they want.
Yeah.
But this is where your investment in this relationship comes in handy. You have invested so many years into this person. You know this person more than they know themselves.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Okay?
That's so true.
And because you know that person more than themselves, you have to trust that gut feeling. And sometimes you might be wrong, sometimes you might be right, but you got to trust it that you're going to make the right decision. And yeah, maybe in the beginning it's going to hurt. Maybe in the beginning it's going to suck a little. But you know what? Here we are, and now you're loving what you're doing. Now you see a little bit of that light at the end of that tunnel.
Yeah.
And it comes with investing in this relationship, investing in each other.
Yeah, I feel like what not motivated, what made me decide to take the creative route was helping you with all your work. Your work with your artists, and then, the concert that we did, because we were still in like the planning stage too. I had already decided to go to school, but it was just doing the small things, helping you with, the company, that made me decide to do it. And I was just like, it's now or never. Honestly, it felt like it. Felt like it was now or never at all. And thank goodness I decided to do it. Like, your work inspired me to do it, the creative side of it.
In a relationship, if you're looking for someone that's perfect, you're never going to get it. You have to be willing to build together and be perfect together to see what's perfect. In each other, we're not perfect. Far from it. Even in this relationship, there are so many flaws. But what's perfect is the fact that we understand this ain't perfect.
Yeah.
That this relationship is so far from perfect, that's what makes it perfect.
Yeah.
That there is always room for growth. That we will always find a way out. That right now, you can put your trust in me so that you can be fully invested in your life while I get our lives steady. And I think that's a very beautiful thing. And I think too many people are seeking for perfect. That's why they're not getting it. Like I want to say this, right? Because I've seen and I've heard so many people say this shit to me. Like a lot of girls and a lot of guys, they say, I want the perfect one. Like this person, I've been with them for so long. Like they lack something. Well, if you feel like that person is lacking something, or you feel like your relation is lacking something, you got to put yourself on that. You got to put yourself in that chopping block and ask yourself, are you also lacking in this relationship? There are moments in this relationship where I thought it was just you lacking, and then I question it, and then I realize, shit, I was lacking too. That because I wasn't growing, you weren't growing.
It's a two-way streak. It's
Yeah.
not a one-way streak. And I hate that where, people always push blame on just one person, either it's the guy or the girl. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not saying, like, for example, I'm not saying that might be a reason to cheat, but I'm like, did you also do your part for her? Like, or like, did you do your part for him? Like, you need to do your part for the other person so that they don't feel like they're missing anything, so that, you guys could be whole together as a couple, not just one person. And that's so true.
Too many people want to push blame. Too many people don't want to look at themselves and see that they might be the issue. Like, okay, like a very good example of this is, like, for Crystal and I, There's a moment in our relationship where I always talk about to Crystal saying that I was right. In this situation, I was right. But did I have to say shit? I didn't. What I said was not wrong. How I said it was not wrong. I also didn't have to say it. And that's the thing that you guys have to be self-aware about. The shit that you do and the shit that like other people do to you, you don't need to do certain things. You don't need to say certain things. In the relationship, whether your partner and you feel like there's something lacking, well, don't blame your partner first. Look at yourself and see what you're doing with your life.
Yeah.
If you're getting bored in your relationship, why are you getting bored? Is your partner the one coming and asking you, "Hey, let's go out," but you're the one that's saying, "I don't want to. I'm too tired." Are you the one in your relationship, that is working the mundane job Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and you're saying he's boring? Or are you just bored of your fucking life?
Yeah.
And you're looking for something from someone else to give you something different? Because it doesn't work that way. You go on your first date. Oh, this is the right person. Well, it's the right person because you're finally doing something that's not a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday.
Yeah. Or they're only letting you see what you want them to see, or you only want to see what you want to see.
Exactly. And this is what annoys me the most is when you nitpick at the other person, but you don't even see that you are also a problem in this equation. Take away the sex. Take away everything. Take it all away. Get down to the bare bones of it. The bare bones of that is, what are you contributing to this relationship? Not the other person. Don't ask the other person. What are you contributing to the other person? If the question is nothing, and the answer is nothing, then fix you.
There's your answer.
And you seek for perfection where perfection is not going to be found. A relationship is never supposed to be perfect. Like someone used to tell me, the reason why it's called a relationship because it's always sinking. It takes two to build that relation and tape it together. Yeah. And someone told me that and I was like, damn. Like, it makes sense.
I get it. Oh, that was actually really good. That was actually...
Relationships are not easy. Relationships are the most difficult, the most strenuous things that you're going to do for yourself. The biggest investment that you're going to make in your life. And I say this as someone who has made a very long relationship investment.
Yes, it took
Okay.
us a long time to get here.
Yes.
Well, just my end. It took me a long time to get here, but...
And even now, it's not settled. Like, we're still chasing for more. We're still chasing to do a lot more. And it's been 8.5 years now in this relationship. We've been married for 1 year. That is not over.
Yep, we still have things. I mean, I'm just starting to, finally get my shit together. So it's like, I gotta, pick up the pace, it feels like, because, like I want to do things, but I also want kids too. It's like you always said to me, kids don't stop. It's not the end of the world, Just because we have kids doesn't mean I, can't do it. It's just, if I have kids, I want to be able to be there for my kids. It's just, it feels like, now that I'm here, and I understand you more than ever, I'm like, oh, life is so short. Time's going by so fast.
Life and time is very long, and like there's a huge amount of time.
As
But
kids,
within that
when
time,
it feels like it's a long time.
yeah, but even then, right? Within that time, there are short periods of that time that are open for certain opportunities and possibilities.
Yep.
That's what I feel like people feel. Like, that's why time is so short. Because those opportunities and those possibilities, they open and they close. And when they close, you don't know when it's ever going to come back. And you feel like it's a wasted time. But I think with a good relationship, you can open those doors and experience those things together. And, that's what this relationship has taught me over the years is that it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fair. And I will say this. If you are a man or a woman that expects a relationship to be fair, you are going to set yourself up for a huge disappointment.
Yes, absolutely. That is so true.
Relationships are not fair. Sometimes you're going to be pulling all of that weight.
You learned that the hard way.
Yeah. You're going to be pulling all of that weight. And sometimes you feel like it's unfair. You feel like the world hates you. You feel like, did you just waste your time? But I'll say this as someone who has, been with, Crystal for 8 years now. When I thought things were hard, when I thought things were unfair, when I thought shit didn't deserve what I put in, I still sit here and I think it's still worth it because what I have, because of what I put in, all of the work that I put in, makes it worth the 100% that I put in. You have to understand that in a relationship, yes, it's a two-way street, and it's always going to be a two-way street. But it's going to be one way for a very long time before your partner realizes, oh, shit, I need to push too.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it just takes a little kicking, but you cannot expect them right off the bat to operate the way you operate at 100%.
Yep.
It ain't easy,
Absolutely.
guys. And I'll say that. It ain't easy. As someone who has dealt with his fair share of bullshit and stupidity and life-changing events, the shit that you go through is worth it. There's a reason why you're going through it. I say it now more than ever. As someone who has experienced heartbreak in a relationship, not because someone cheated, not because of that, but genuine heartbreak because something that someone you love within your relationship has done to you. At the end of the day, you're still going to sit here 5 years later and be like, damn, everything I did was worth it. No matter what you go through, it's going to be hard. It's going to be strenuous. It's going to be taxing on your body and your mind and your emotions. But you got to find your own reason for doing it. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Statues Podcast. I know that this episode was kind of like all over the place, but at the same time, I hope that you guys understand that everything that we said during this podcast is our opinion based off our relationship. It may not be the same for everyone else. It might not even be viable advice for other people.
Yeah.
But this is from our own experience, from our own relationship, and from our own journey throughout our 8 years of being together.
Yeah. It seems like for me, the conversation was over the place, but at the same time, I felt like when we talk about what happened in our relationship and everything we went through, it truly is like an investment, because if you want to be with this person, or it might not be long term, or maybe even marriage, but if you see there's a possibility, like take the chance, like you did. You really took a chance on being with me after my dad passed away. Mm-hmm. So, everything that we went through was truly just to get us to this point and for the rest of our lives together.
Yeah. So we hope that whatever you guys are going through, if our advice has helped you, if our advice had given you some kind of clarity or some kind of things to question, we hope that you guys just don't take it too seriously. This is just our thoughts. This is our opinions.
Take
This
it with a
is
grain of salt.
yeah, it's just a conversation between a married couple. That's it. Once again, thank you guys so much. You guys can follow us on Instagram at the Statues Podcast. You guys can follow our personal Instagram. We'll put it down in all of the descriptions. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. This is your host and your co-host signing off. Bye-bye, guys.